All right. I think we are started here. So I know it's going to probably take a few minutes for people to, if whoever's going to be here live. So I'm just basically going a quick overview, and I can mention this again if you want to mention it in the chat. Essentially, this is going to be my quick live stream about this Saturday's DIY Duro 2020 ride that me and my buddy Mario had planned. I know I'd done a previous video about it, and I just figured this format was going to be the easiest as far as showing you the route, giving you some ideas of what to expect if you end up doing it at a different time that day or doing it a different day and just want to try the route and explore some local Orange County gravel trails. So that's essentially what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to be talking about water spots and obviously when we're going to be starting to see if you want to join us and answering any questions you guys may have. I'm going to let this run till a little bit before 5. I know Russ from Pathless Pedaled is doing a live stream at 5, so I want you guys to go watch his after this is over. So I'm going to get right into it and go over the initial stats, and feel free again to join in the chat and ask me any questions during this, just because this is essentially going to be an overview for you to watch. If you're not watching this live, you can watch this before this Saturday, which is going to be the 19th. And actually, let me double check that. Yes, the 19th of September 2020. And I have all the information in the description below. Essentially, we're going to be wanting to meet at about 6:15 a.m. just because it is going to be slightly warmer that day when you want to get a good head start, since I don't know if people are going to show up. 2, I will be filming this ride, so I do take periodic stops for camera setup and things like that. So it's not going to be a crazy aggressive race pace. This is going to be party pace. I want to enjoy the route with me and my buddy Mario and anyone who does end up joining. And the address is going to be in the description below, and I will be going over exactly where to meet up at the start point. That will be screen sharing, essentially going along the Strava route to kind of give you an idea of what to expect and answer any questions. So let's get into that. I am doing this on 2 different computers, so I will be looking off screen, but this is so you guys can see the route. So here is going to be the overview. If you do want to join us, I have a neutral meeting spot that I'll get into a little bit more. But here's the overall stats for anyone who's curious. And I have to let you know, I designed this as well, so there are spots for you to dip out early and essentially ride an easier route back to the beginning. That's really what I wanted. I wanted a route that was easy to dip out at, obviously that is accessible for different water stops, bathroom breaks, and food. This is going to be obviously a self-supported ride, so I'm planning to bring, hopefully, ideally, the full day's worth of food, but there are a certain amount of spots that we are going to be able to stop at to grab food at different capacities. Some going to be maybe only a liquor store or convenience store, and some there might be some, fast food style stuff that we'd be able to get as well. So let's go over to the stats here. As you can see, we are looking at not identical stats to Grinduro like I initially mentioned, but again, I wanted something more attainable that was easy for people to ride a section of or the complete loop and ride with us or not. And so the full total stats are going to be 66.5 miles, and Strava is rated at 5,800 feet of climbing roughly. I realistically think this is going to be probably at least 6,000, possibly a tad over. And this route, I will be... you will have an available GXP download link in the description below. It'll say Strava route. You can download that. If you do not have a Strava capable account to download my link, DM me on Instagram and I can share you a link directly if that doesn't work, or I can obviously email it to you if need be. Again, we are riding at 6:15 Saturday the 19th, and we'll be rolling at 6:30. Again, be there early to be ready and supported to be rolling out. The weather that day is supposed to be between 85 and 95 degrees. It'll be 95 degrees roughly in the farthest point from where we're riding, and which means hopefully it'll be cooling down as we come in. So as you can see here, I'll go over a brief profile of the entire ride. As you can see, we have a couple of substantial climbs. We have basically a nice road warm-up to begin with. That's going to have some rollers, and essentially the rest of this route is almost all dirt with very few road sections. We try to do the best we could. There are some sections where we don't really know what the trail is next to the road that may or may not be rideable, because some of it is horse trails, and sometimes with the steps and things like that they have for logs and for water drainage, they may be rideable if you have the bike handling skills for it. But if not, there is going to be a sidewalk or road section. So let's get into the beginning of this. I'll be going into this so we can see some hybrid view and where to start. Now, the starting point that I have addressed is going to be a Walmart. It is in the city of Orange, but the meetup spot that I'm doing just to make it easy and convenient and easy for parking for people is going to be essentially the backside of the Walmart. So the address is obviously going to be of the Walmart itself. Switch this to satellite view. So this is essentially the Walmart right here. Behind here is a large, very large parking lot that is usually always open. You're going to see a lot of storage containers right here. Park anywhere along here. You're going to see me and my buddy Mario. We'll have lights on, and obviously you're going to see two guys wandering around on bicycles or gravel bikes, ready to ride. So again, DM me on Instagram if you are going to be on the way or maybe a few minutes late, so we might be able to wait around for you. Ideally, obviously, we're going to be rolling at 6:30. We want to obviously have this as a safe ride environment, so we are going to be practicing social distancing. I will be having a face neck gaiter on me, and so will Mario, to protect us, obviously, from dirt, debris, and obviously, spreading of the COVID. So if you guys do want to join, please be responsible and respect everybody else who's going to be showing up. All right, well, we got one guy may be interested. Cool. So essentially, we're going to be starting here, rolling out from here. Let me pull this out. And I wanted to have a nice, decent warm-up with some road. So initially, if you're going to be coming in, ride at your road pressure on whatever gravel tires you're going to be riding. And we'll be talking about that if you guys want to ask for my opinion on my setup and what I would suggest as far as tire style after we go through this. So we're going to ride in along here. This is all a road section. It all has beautiful bike lane the whole way. Then we'll basically be going up to Jamboree Road, which is right here. Let me switch back to the standard view. And this is going to give us a nice rolling setup of a few hills, but again, it's all road, it's all paved, and it's going to give you a nice warm up into getting into the ride. So essentially, that's going to take us to roughly about mile 7 before we're going to dip into Peters Canyon. So if you know the area and you know Peters Canyon, that's going to be the start of the ride. We're basically going to be looping around the little man-made lake, or maybe it's natural, going up the trail, essentially riding along what predominantly you're going to see people on mild mountain bikes or hikers going to be on to go through Peters Canyon. We're going to be dipping out of there, then going back onto the road to then go into Santiago Canyon or Irvine Park. This is really where the dirt's going to start. So we get a little bit of a tease of dirt in Peters Canyon. Then once we hit about this looks about mile 14, we're going to be back into the dirt for predominantly the rest of the ride. And as you can see here, this is really where we're going to start climbing and have our first really big climb. There's going to be 2 basically peaks of this before we have some downhill. So let me minimize the elevation map. So what we're going to be doing is basically going along here. If you do know Santiago Canyon, we're going to be going up to Robber's Roost, which is essentially where the USA flag is going to be at. If you guys ever ridden out there or seen people post images out there when riding. And that is going to basically be one of our stopping points. It's one of the initial first climbs. We'll obviously take a photo up there. I may update the vlog and do a kind of piece to camera to see how everybody's feeling. And then essentially there's going to be a little bit of a downhill. This is a slight technical section. There is some slick rock. And again, this is party pace ride. So if anybody doesn't feel comfortable riding, trust me, there are sections of this ride that I'm going to totally be walking down or possibly up. No shame in that game. So if you are riding and you're still slightly new, I would ask for that you'd be a somewhat experienced gravel rider. Don't let this be your first ride. I am by no means an expert and will by no means be going super fast. But again, I will be walking anything I don't feel personally comfortable riding down. Then there is a good amount of climbing right here. This is going to be essentially the second peak. As you can see here, throughout the middle section, before we have quite a big section of downhill. So this basically by mile 19 is going to be our first section of climbing. Then we're going to have about a 3 or so mile downhill with obviously a few little whoops in between. But then we get a nice little reprieve right there. And that's going to essentially carry us all the way out of the canyon, all the way to essentially our first road section. But before that, there is going to be a park right here that I don't have listed on this route. But if you are following this and taking notes, this is the park here that you'll be able to find water at if you are essentially out of water. Let's see where that point's going to be at. Basically, about mile 22. There's going to be a park here. After that, there's basically a kind of a flowy flat section of trail. There is going to be mixed conditions on here. So there's going to be sections where there is going to be pavement for you to ride on. And just to point out, there are a few sections that I had to manually input onto this route that for whatever reason, as you can see here, Strava, for whatever reason, like to mess that up. So if you are looking at the route, there may be some sections where it wants you to randomly jump off. But if you just continue riding for a few seconds and it doesn't automatically say you're back on the route, I would say to then check the map or overall view that you have. Again, that's why I'm providing GXP files for this. After that, we're going to get back onto the road. Here, if you didn't already get water at the park or past it, this is essentially a urban area that has plazas, so you're not going to be trail, side or anything like that. Plenty of places here to get water or food if need be. Then what we're going to be doing essentially is going out here, hopping on to the trail. This is going to be the Green River Trail or the Santa Ana River Trail that's going to basically take you all the way to the golf course before we would get into Chino State Park. So we're going to be taking it via La Palma. You can see the Santa Ana River Trail right here. I'm going to change to the satellite view to kind of give you an idea of what to expect. So along here, there is construction for a new river trail that's going to be kind of connecting. So there are parts where we're going to be on the road, then getting off. As we go up, this is going to be a route that me and Mario have done before, which is kind of a cool alternative to just doing the river trail to the golf course to where we really start in Chino. And again, this is all going to be mapped on the GXP file. And as you can see, there's another little blip here where for whatever reason, it's not connecting these two dots. But essentially, there's going to be a really cool wide gravel trail that we found that kind of parallels the train tracks right here. So that's going to take you essentially all the way. And again, this is barren. There's no cars. There shouldn't be any vehicles, especially on the weekend, that you're going to be able to follow essentially all the way up into the golf course. So if you've ridden to Chino State Park, this can be very familiar to you. So as you go up and in, there is going to be, again, at the golf course, you are going to have water accessible there as well. There is a water fountain. You can, come in and dip in and do another fill up. And that's going to be roughly at mile 30 to 31. Then you're going to be essentially into Chino State Park. There's going to be a pretty mild start to it. Then there's going to be one progressive big climb. That's going to be kind of the second one you're going to see here. Basically, you're going to start at mile 30. It's going to be kind of a false flat. And then there's going to be basically a majority of the climb is going to be essentially about 1.5 miles long. And what I routed here that you're going to see, this little offshoot, this is actually the only one that's actually the right thing that I meant to add. This is essentially the Chino Hills State Park. This is gated off to cars, but you can ride around the gate. And there is full bathrooms here with water, all accessible. So at mile 35, if you need another fill up or have to go to the bathroom or get rid of some trash from the food you've been eating, you can again fill up, go to the bathroom, and dump trash right here. After this point, you're essentially going to take a nice downhill all the way to the end of Chino, going down 4 corners. So if you have ridden Chino State Park, we are not going up 4 corners, we're going down it. So a nice progressive downhill you're going to see all the way here from mile 36, all the way to mile 43. 43, 44, let's call it. At the end of this, if you've ridden this, there is the little discovery center, basically the beginning of where most people will park to ride into Chino. There is water there as well, and bathrooms yet again. So if you do miss it or think maybe you run out, this is probably going to be the hottest section of the day when we're out here, because it's supposed to be about 95 degrees in this area specifically, roughly when I'm assuming we're going to be out there. So it is going to be a little bit warmer. We're going to come out of that. And this is kind of where it gets a little tricky. We wanted to stick as much dirt onto this as we could, but there was no easy way to kind of venture us back all the way to where we wanted to go to finish the ride. So I'm going to switch this back to satellite view to show you kind of what to expect. And these are the horse trails that I was talking about. So some of this is manually inputted, as you can see with the amount of dots here. But essentially what we tried to find was, once you get out of the park, there's a lot of these trails you can see along here that are dirt that we're essentially trying to follow and take instead of taking the road, just to keep it as much gravel as possible. The overall percentages wise, I'm assuming we're going to be about, I think this is a little off, probably about 60% dirt, if not more. And again, some of this paved section that is going to be mapped that I'll show you, you can ride these dirt horse trails, but some of it I did map to the sidewalk just in case it is too difficult, depending again on how aggressive some of those wood steps are to go up. So you can see here, there's a lot of horse trail around this area, and I try to take it as much as possible, but as you can see on the road, there is bike lane along this whole way as well. So if you're just not feeling it or trying to head back and cut the ride a little short, feel free to take the road section back using Google Maps to take you back home. Again, here, this is kind of what I'm talking about. I've been out in this area before, and some of these sections with these wooden beams here are pretty steep or aggressive to hop over. And hopping over a few is one thing, but doing it consistently for a few miles is going to get old and a little tiring. So again, that's why some of these sections I either spec out essentially these sidewalk, or again, you can cross the street and take the bike lane. Kind of buzz out here. I'm just going to kind of follow this slowly around. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat if you want. You can see here, I dip back over to the street just because some of these trails are kind of hard to connect to certain other parts we're trying to get to. Going to cross here, go back to another horse trail. Going to see going through a lot of residential area. So again, it should be pretty mild. So even if the streets are kind of busy, you're realistically not going to be on them too much. And the sections that you are, I try to specifically pick that I know are very wide and have a really good, strong bike lane. Again, back to another horse trail. Real quick. Again, you can take the horse trail up here if you'd like, but it looks like, again, there's going to be those wooden beams along this whole section here. And then we're basically going to take another kind of dirt trail here that's going to essentially take you most of the way back. And now I'm not naming names or trails because, again, this isn't the GXP file that you're more than happy to kind of search it more in detail. Again, this is more of an overview. Then we're going to get back onto some street because there was no real choice at this point. And there's one last little kind of dirt trail between all these homes that we're going to be taking. Zoom back out. Then essentially we're going to be dipping into the river trail one more time, hopping back on it, and then hopping into our last longer gravel climb that we're going to be doing, which I'll show you again on the profile. That's going to be essentially right about here is where we're going to be climbing. So before we hit this, obviously there's going to be water anywhere that you're going to find when you're coming along the horse trails. There's going to be different parts where you're going to be on the street. You can see areas. In this section of the park, there is multiple water fountains and bathrooms as well. So once you get back onto here into Deer Canyon, we're going to be climbing up this quite a way. And as we make this turn right here at the Deer Canyon Park Preserve, there's actually a sign there. It has wild goats that are there that are at work. I just posted a picture of that on my Instagram. There is a full set of bathrooms there again, and water, a water fountain to fill up with good drinking water. There's a little bit more climbing after that. We're going to be through that whole section of park. There is a pretty good sustained road climb right here that's going to essentially lead us back into the Santiago Canyon area, where we will be going back to the flag section, coming down a different trail, just so we're not doing the exact same trail on the way down. Going through mostly the hiking area that you've probably seen, but essentially is the main entrance to get into Santiago, depending on where you live, right off Serrano Avenue, as you can see here, and then essentially taking the same road section all the way back to Walmart. So as you can see here, this is your full breakdown of the elevation. Some of this, again, being manual entry. I think the elevation is probably going to be a little bit off, so I think it's probably going to be a little bit more climbing than it says. And for whatever reason, it added some climbing. I must have modified something. So let me go back to the overview. So here we go. Again, I really think this is going to be closer to the 6,000-ish feet of climbing, probably low 6,000s. That's what I'm hoping for. So it, again, isn't the same exact stats as Grinduro, but we wanted to get close and something that could be enjoyable. And again, easy to do sections of if you wanted. So that is essentially the overview. Again, you can see the profile, so what you can expect. So essentially, there's going to be a water stop at Peters Canyon area. There is one water fountain, and I believe there are porta potties there, roughly at mile 10. Once you get into the Santiago State Park, there is going to be a little section, basically, that's going to be dry all the way till we get to about mile 22. There is a little offshoot park. If you can make it past that and you get to the road section, roughly at mile 24, there will be areas to go to a liquor store or a gas station to get water. Then again, right when you get to the golf course area, roughly around mile 30 at the golf course near Chino State Park, there is water and bathrooms there. I did map the little blurb of where the Chino Hills State Park area is with full bathrooms and water again at mile 36. Then at the Discovery Center at the end of Chino State Park at mile 43, there's water. Basically from mile 45 to 53, 54, there's not going to be anything that I know is dedicated water or a park. But again, you're going to be in a mix of areas where you could probably find a gas station or something like that to get it. But essentially that, I think, is the longest stint minus Santiago without a easy water fill up. Then before Deer Creek, again, we're going to be overlapping a little bit of where you could get water there, but again, not like a park or any area there. So mile 55, you could get something at a liquor store. Going through Deer Canyon, you're going to be able to get water and bathrooms at roughly mile 58, let's call it. And then after that, it's basically a long downhill stretch all the way back to Walmart. Again, there is going to be some road section before Walmart, so if you do need to eat anything there, in that plaza where the Walmart's at, there's a Trader Joe's, there's a Sprouts, there's a Rubio's, an Olive Garden. There's plenty of places to eat. So if you want to have an easy place to just roll to or drive your car, basically not even a block to go get food, there's plenty of options there. And again, you can look at the GXP file to see what's around, but there's plenty of different food options, either from a grocery store or from a restaurant itself. So now let me bust into any of these comments here and answer anything that I can, and then I'll get into my setup as well. All right, so let's see here. Kevin, I live 5 miles away from Chino State Park, and I wasn't into biking, but now you're on the other side of the country, so sorry, man. Well, if you ever do come back or want to do this route when you're visiting home, again, you can download it in the links below and download the GXP to save it for later. Let's see. So Jordan, definitely, always looking for cool gravel routes. I think this is a pretty good spread. Again, not ideal through some of it, but a lot of those trails out in really deep Santiago Canyon that we could probably add in, never done before. Me and Mario did scout quite a bit of this to make sure it was definitely gravel bikeable. Again, I'm not the best bike handler. There's stuff that Mario is probably going to go down that I may walk down. So that is something that I wanted to make it somewhat accessible to someone who has some experience. I'd say to maybe intermediate, but definitely does not need to be a gravel expert or a mountain biker or somebody with crazy skills on the bike to handle what we're throwing at them. Yes, there's a lot of climbing, but a lot of the descents are not technical. There's just a few spots that are, at least in my opinion, and that's really going to depend on your skill set. So as far as gravel setup that I'm going to be running, I'm going to be running my Cobalt Warhawk. I'm going to be running my 650B tire setup. I'm going to be running a Specialized Fast Track in a 2.2 front and rear. Mario is going to be running his Mescal 2.1s. So we're essentially going with the cross country 2.0 tire in a 650. Now, could you handle this on a 700 by 40 to 50C tire? Yeah, totally. I think there's only going to be a few sections that are going to be kind of chunky to where you may want a little bit more sidewall. But I think most of this, to be honest, especially if you've ridden that tire size for quite a while and know the handling characteristics, there's very few sections where you're going to really be wanting more tire. I'm just doing that because of comfort. And again, it does kind of help make up for that lack of skill that I have, as well as I am going to be running my Redshift shock stop stem and seat post because it is going to be a long day in the saddle and it's just going to aid in comfort. And I really want to try this setup for a long extended period of time because this essentially was the identical setup I wanted to run for Grinduro. So this is going to be my real test to see if I can stay in the saddle that long. Now, as far as duration of this, I really think it's going to take us, again, at the party pace and filming as much as I can to make, a vlog out of this or a video for later. I think realistically, it's going to take us roughly 6.5 to 7-ish hours moving time for me and Mario. Based on the rides that we've done, we kind of know what our pace is going to be. And obviously, we're not going to be going super hard or deep because it is going to be a longer ride and have a good amount of climbing. I've never done over 6,000 feet in a day. My last Grinduro that me and him did, we did 57 miles and I believe 54 or 5,500 feet of climbing. So this is going to be an essentially 10 more miles, and depending on what the elevation is, 500 to 1,000 more feet. So, and it is obviously unsupported, so we're going to be carrying a lot more weight and food because there's not going to be food stops like there was a Grinduro. So we are going to be more loaded down with water and food to sustain us throughout this ride. So I realistically think that's roughly what it's going to be at. So depending on stops and how often we want to stop for a longer meal or burrito to take a break, I think the total time from time we're going to leave to time we're going to be done is probably going to be between that 8.5 to 9.5 hour mark. Again, that's going to be depending on food stops, how we're physically feeling, how many people show up, and obviously the pace that everyone's riding at. And as well as if there's any mechanicals, if we're going to be, having to fix any flats or anything like that. Again, if you are planning to join, it is self-supported. So please bring enough food for yourself and, all the materials that you're going to need to fix your tubes, your tubeless setup or whatever. Be prepared because, again, there are sections of this that are out there pretty far to where there's not an easy way back, or it's going to be a very long hike. So make sure to bring extra tubes with you, maybe some extra sealant. I definitely would bring multiple CO2s and possibly an extra pump just in case. I'm going to be bringing a 24-ounce and a 20-ounce water bottle that I'll be filling up probably every single opportunity I get because I'd rather have too much water than not enough. Again, the weather is going to be between 85 and 95 degrees at the hottest parts of the day. It's probably going to be in the low to mid 70s when we roll out. We are going to be bringing some small blinky lights just for the morning section because there are some road sections of this ride. Obviously, when you want to be safe with the cars that are going to be out that day. So if you'd like to join us, please comment in this or comment below if you're watching this after it's live. And again, DM me on Instagram that day if you're really close. We will be willing to wait a few minutes for people, but I definitely don't want to be waiting around for, 15 to 30 or minutes or an hour later than we really want to roll out. Just because we don't want to be stuck out in the heat if we don't have to be. But again, we'll be playing this by ear. I've never done this with a socially distant group ride with people that I essentially don't know from the channel. So I'd love to see you guys out there. But if not, again, tag me in the ride once you finish it. If you do it at a different date or time, if the air quality is super, super bad that day because of the fires, I may postpone it to doing it the next following day on Sunday. And again, I'll be updating my Instagram story of that and try to post things of where I'm at on the route periodically on there as well. I don't think my Instagram is actually in the description below currently, but I will be adding that, or you can obviously find it on one of my other videos. So make sure to do that, especially for that day, to either tag along or maybe you'll be so fast you catch up even if you start after me. Cool. Yeah, definitely if you end up doing this ride, anybody at any point and doing the full loop, I'd love for you to tag me and share your Strava time, showing me how much faster you were than we did it. And again, if you're wanting to see more of the trail after the ride and don't either unable to do it with us this weekend, again, hopefully I'll be able to culminate some type of vlog together to show you a little bit more of the trail in depth. And then you can watch this and the vlog to kind of get a good idea of what to expect trail wise. Gearing wise, I'm going to be going super, super low again, because we're going to be carrying a lot of food, a lot of water, and I have to carry camera equipment. So I'm going to be running essentially a mountain bike gear set. I'm running a 9 to 50 rear cassette paired with a 32 tooth front ring. I just dropped down. That's still going to give me effectively a top speed of about 28 to 29 miles an hour on the flats in the 932. Because of the 9, it obviously gives me more top end than an 1132 would give me, which essentially would be about 18 to 19 miles an hour. So obviously, again, this is going to be a party pace ride. I highly doubt, minus some downhills, that I'll even hit that top speed. I essentially just want that super low gearing for the climbing that we're going to be doing, because there are some pretty good sustained long climbs. And again, you're going to be adding up to over 6,000 feet. And there may be some of you who have done more than that regularly. I haven't. This is my first time. So it's definitely something I want to, be over prepared for, see how I feel, and then maybe change up the gearing the next time we attempt this exact route, or maybe a modified route in the future. So if anybody has any more questions, there's a few people left in the chat here. I'll probably be wrapping it up pretty soon. But again, wanted to go over the rough stats. So anybody who might have missed it, I will screen share the Strava route again so you can see the overview of basically where we're going to be exploring Orange County as a whole. Essentially doing Peters Canyon, Santiago Canyon, Weir Canyon to Chino Hill State Park, down kind of wiggling our way back through Deer Canyon Park Preserve, then again through Santiago, and then back to the city of Orange. So a good spread. Maybe I'll do another route later for a communal ride going out maybe towards the coast, or going through Silverado, things like that. There are a few other areas that I have ridden, or even something down to Crystal Cove. I know if anybody's done Hardman or any of those gravel races, they usually do a really long Century version kind of throughout Orange County. But I definitely wanted something more accessible for me personally, as well as anybody else who may want to join. So if you watch this video, please comment below if you watched all the way through. I really do appreciate it. Again, I will be adding my Facebook and Instagram links. Follow me on Instagram and DM me, again, if you're going to be there that morning. And I will be updating any story things of maybe what mile marker we're at. So if you're on the way or trying to catch up, or maybe you're ahead and want to wait up, you can definitely do that. I will be wearing a brand new Locked In t-shirt. I've been working on that. I will be announcing soon. So you will see a bright blue shirt that me and Mario will both have on. We'll both be matching. And you'll see the Locked In logo on the front, and a Slow But Look Pro logo on the back of it. So if you do see us roaming around, give us a shout and let us know if you're there, or that you're catching up to us or anything like that. But I really do appreciate it. And lastly, before I finish up, if you haven't liked this video, please do. It really does help out the channel. Subscribe to this if you haven't already. I'm going to be giving you guys also a sneak peek of what's coming tomorrow. I'm doing another live stream with my frame builder I did with the ultimate steel gravel bike build, where, like I had mentioned before on my video of I'm selling my dream bike, I'm going to be doing a new version 2 of that bike, essentially make it a true monster gravel custom bike with a lot of cool innovative features that me and my buddy Mario both want, because we're both essentially doing a new custom build with Varco. So I want to bring everybody along with that process with me to show you how easy it is to basically describe your perfect bike and the steps that it does take to work with a frame builder, especially during this pandemic where it's probably going to be virtual or through Zoom, on things that they're going to want to know, what we're going to have to find out for him. And then the next part of that is essentially hopefully seeing a bike CAD model of our dream bike and going through the options that you're going to be able to go through. Varco's a really great guy. If you haven't watched that series, it's definitely a good watch. He's a really cool guy, really down to earth. He's back and local into Southern California. And I can't wait to get started on this new build. He's got some new cool features he's able to add into this new frame that I've really been looking forward to. And I think it'll be a really exciting watch and series to go with. That will be basically carrying over the next few months to go through that process with you guys. And he does offer really affordable rates, especially for a custom steel frame. So hope you guys like this. Let's see. Will it have cutthroat like clearance? Melissa, so not to get too into detail, but currently I think it's going to be roughly what the clearance is on the Cobalt Warhawk that I have. Mainly because one thing he doesn't do, and I'm not a big fan of because I do want a lighter weight bike, is he doesn't do his own forks. And yeah, I could have one commissioned by somebody else, but I'd rather go with a turnkey carbon fork. So I am going to be working with Cobalt to possibly sell their Monster Gravel fork that comes on the Cobalt as a accessory option for frame builders, anybody looking to, up the clearance on their bike. So just for reference, if you're not sure, that bike clears a 700 by 50 stated and a 650 by 2.1 stated. I have tested it again with a 2.2, which realistically probably measure out to a 2.25 with plenty of clearance for California. I haven't tested anything bigger than a 50 on my 700C wheels. That effectively works out to about a 1.9 something. So I would like to try it with a 29 by 2.0. I really don't think I'd go bigger than that. I know the Cutthroat, I believe, now clears a 2.4. I don't have really long legs for my height. I'm 5'11". So I wanted something that realistically, if I'm going to be riding really aggressive gravel, I'm probably going to be wanting to run a 650B setup. And again, that fork is going to be something when you're working with Cobalt to make an affordable option compared to some of the other bigger name brands. And realistically, when I ride gravel, I ride 650. I have ridden the Venture 50C 700s, and I do like them, but it's definitely for a different style of ride that for a route like what I'm announcing for this, I definitely would go 650 over 700 for me. Definitely, I could do the Cutthroat fork as well. Again, I think for me and how the geometry would work and how much, frame triangle space I want and some of the other features, I think it's going to be more conducive to have a 650B setup, so I'm not doing such a sloping top tube for the front end. Again, because I have short legs, I do need a good amount of standover clearance for my height. Realistically, my standover is about a 31 on a good day. For being 5'11", that's pretty short. So most bikes, like even with the Cobalt, when I ran the 50Cs, it's definitely something where I'm touching the frame, standing over it by a good margin, where it's not super comfortable. I definitely can do it. But if it's something where I'm constantly hopping on and off the bike, depending on how aggressive the trail is, it does get a little annoying. But that's something I might consider going with that. But again, I have been a big fan of the 650Bs and the better turn in for the technical trails, because the 700 by 50C or almost a 2.0, I think for me is enough for the areas and what I like riding around me. But that is a good idea because I definitely forgot that they do sell that fork by itself. So anybody else going to be wrapping this up probably in the next couple of minutes? Yeah, so I believe, Melissa, the new Cutthroat, I believe clears a 2.4 max. I believe they stock it with a 2.2, so obviously a 2.3 would work. I believe the fork they're selling too is the updated version. I know with the Fargo, they updated it to boost front, I believe this year. So I think they did the same with the Cutthroat recently. I just don't know if the aftermarket or a separate fork they sell by itself is also the same. Yeah, so Jordan, yeah, that's definitely a cool bike. I definitely know a bike you're talking about. Yeah, Ty would be rad. That's one bike and one material I've never ridden before. I'm a big fan of steel as far as ride quality, and it's a little bit obviously less prone to dings and dents than Ty is. But Ty is kind of that beauty of weight to ride quality ratio. Excuse me. That I definitely think would be a cool. But it's definitely not in the cards currently. Basically, what I'm doing right now is trying to spec out the group set and trying to find different companies to partner with me to do this build. Because as some of you, or if all of you might know, this is my full-time gig right now, and it does definitely not pay the bills. I do not make enough money on this to basically fund any extra parts at the moment. That's why I am selling the parts off my Varco. I actually just sold my SRAM Red ETAP group set today, right before this live stream, to help pay for rent and a few other things I need to pay for. And hopefully, if this works out and it keeps growing the way the channel's growing, because I'm definitely hoping this does work, I will be hopefully working with other companies to provide products for that for review independently, as well as to aid in this build. But there are obviously going to be some parts I probably have to shell out for. can't do it physically at the moment. So Melissa, as far as I know, and this is going to be kind of off of Mario, who's actually in the chat here, there should be, I believe he said there was a storm or some wind coming in or something that should be making it pretty tolerable. I believe it's still not going to be ideal, but as far as what I've read on what they recommend, as long as you're not super sensitive or obviously ill or sick, should be fine that day. Again, I'm going to be wearing a very thin neck gaiter to help with dust and debris inhaling, but I did ride recently in this area the last basically week and a half, just because we wanted to test out some of the routes to make sure they were, again, gravel bikeable. And so that's something that I feel fine so far. Granted, the rides were only a max of 2 hours, and this is going to be a lot longer. But by that time in the weekend, they're predicting it should be good. But again, as of Friday night, I'll probably, again, update my story if it doesn't look good enough and I want to push it to Sunday. I will be mentioning that, obviously, on Instagram being the easiest platform to mention that for everybody following me. So again, I'll be updating the description if you're not already following me on Instagram. But it is at Locked In Show, all one word. Yeah, Melissa, the Bear Claw, definitely, Thunderhawk is definitely a cool bike. That would be definitely on one of my lists to try out if I could get my hands on, especially a review unit of that. Yeah, Jordan, if you can get your hands on one of those Moots, that new one with the coupler and the hydro disconnect, I would be all over checking that thing out. That is definitely one of the coolest things. I hope they sell by itself, that hydraulic decoupler, so I could add it to another bike. If anybody hadn't seen it at last year's Sea Otter, Rodeo Labs had a frame they do sell, and they had a drop bar E-tap bike build, and essentially had some type of quick disconnect for the hydraulic lines on it, and basically just took the stem and the handlebars completely off, and then swapped it for a straight bar with an access trigger shifter, and just switched it in their app. So essentially you could take your gravel bike from a flat bar to a drop bar with 2 disconnects, and essentially just removing the stem from the steer tube, not having to adjust your bars or untape anything or take the faceplate off. So essentially you have 2 bolts instead of 4 and no adjustments, which I think is rad. Definitely would consider that if I go electronic or E-tap on the Varco version 2 Monster Gravel steel build. All right, so I'll give it a few more minutes. I'm probably going to wrap this right at the 45-minute mark. So again, appreciate everybody for watching. Really does help and support the channel when you guys give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I have a lot of cool stuff coming out for this month. I've been working on a ton of videos, a lot of different content, a lot of different styles. And again, doing another live stream tomorrow with my frame builder, so you guys can ask a steel custom frame builder any questions that you'd like near the end of that. So please join in. That is going to be at 5 p.m. tomorrow, Pacific Standard Time, because unfortunately, and I don't know if it's been announced on Instagram yet, we are not doing an episode of ACN due to Eric's schedule, because I believe because of work. I could be wrong on that, but he's going to be unable to join us, and we try to reschedule it, but it didn't work with everybody else's schedule to do that. So I'll be essentially taking over that time slot. So if you normally come in for ACN, grab your drinks, and you can chill out with me and Mario having a drink and talking to Varco, and you can ask again, a frame builder directly, any kind of questions you may have about maybe some interest in personally getting a custom frame through him, or an experience on what information you need to gather before considering a custom frame set. All righty. Well, I'm going to wrap it up here. I, again, appreciate everybody who's joined in and joined the chat. And if you have any comments, again, after watching this whole thing, if you've stayed till the very, very end, comment below. If you are going to be joining this Saturday, again, it's going to be the 19th at 6:15 a.m. on the address described below. Again, it is the back of a Walmart parking lot, so that there is tons of space. We'll be rolling out at 6:30 a.m. Again, these stats are going to be roughly 66.5 miles and between 5,800 and I'd say about 6,200 feet of climbing, depending on a few different options that you may or may not be taking. Again, the GXP downloadable files, you can upload it to your Garmin, Wahoo, Lezyne, or any other bike computer, is in the links below. Feel free to grab that. Follow me on Instagram, which I will be adding to the links below if it's not there already. And if you cannot, for whatever reason, get the GXP file, I can personally email you that, no problem. before the day of the ride, and I will be updating it just in case the air quality or the fires get too bad for us to ride it on Saturday, and we'll be picking a different date. The reason I picked that date was because that was the original date for a Grinduro that did obviously get canceled if you watch that video. So I wanted to do it in honor / homage to that race and hopefully bring some people along with me. So thanks for watching another live stream from Locked In.